Marcus Chin had seen enough death to last 3 lifetimes. The cybernetic implant behind his left ear still flickered red sometimes, reminding him of the neural damage from his last tour in the Centauri Wars. 23 years of military service had left him with medals he never displayed, scars that ached in cold weather, and nightmares that visited him like old friends. The transport ship Meridian's hope shuddered as it dropped out of hyperspace. Through the small porthole, Marcus watched the ice planet Glacialis emerge from the starfield like a pale blue marble. The planet had been abandoned for over 2 centuries after the Great Freeze, when solar storms had knocked its orbit further from its sun. Now it served as little more than a way station for smugglers and the occasional research team. Final approach to Glacialis Station, announced the pilot over the comm. All passengers prepare for atmospheric entry. Marcus adjusted his worn military jacket and checked his personal scanner. The readings showed the same thing they had for the past 3 days. Massive energy signatures beneath the planet's surface, unlike anything in the known databases. The private research company that hired him hadn't been entirely honest about why they needed a former military engineer on what should have been a simple archaeological survey. Dr. Sarah Voss, the expedition leader, slid into the seat across from him. Her eyes held the kind of excitement that made Marcus nervous. Scientists got that look when they were about to do something dangerous in the name of discovery. Still having second thoughts about this job? She asked, noting his expression. 23 years in the military teaches you to trust your instincts, Marcus replied, watching ice crystals form on the porthole as they entered the atmosphere. And my instincts are telling me this isn't just about archaeological remains. Sarah's smile faltered slightly. The energy readings we detected are unprecedented. Whatever's down there has been dormant for centuries, but it's definitely artificial. We need someone with your expertise to help us safely investigate. The ship touched down on a landing pad carved from solid ice. Through the porthole, Marcus could see the research station, a collection of prefabricated modules connected by enclosed walkways. Beyond the station, the landscape stretched endlessly white, broken only by massive ice formations that jutted from the ground like frozen monuments. As they disembarked, the cold hit Marcus like a physical blow despite his thermal suit. The air was so thin and frigid that each breath felt like swallowing glass. His cybernetic implant immediately began compensating, adjusting his body temperature and oxygen intake. But the strain was noticeable. "Welcome to Glacialis Research Station," said Commander Torres, the station's military liaison. Her handshake was firm, professional. "I've reviewed your service record, Captain Chun. Impressive work during the siege of Titan Base." Marcus nodded curtly. He didn't like discussing his military service, especially not that particular operation. Too many good soldiers had died because of his tactical decisions. The station's main laboratory buzzed with activity. Researchers hunched over holographic displays showing 3-dimensional maps of the planet's subsurface. What Marcus saw made him stop in his tracks. "Those aren't natural cave systems," he said, studying the display. "No, they're not," confirmed Dr. Elena Kozlov, the team's xenoarchaeologist. "The tunnels extend for hundreds of kilometers beneath the ice. The construction is too precise, too purposeful to be natural. But here's the really interesting part." She manipulated the display, highlighting specific areas within the tunnel network. "These chambers show signs of habitation. Large chambers, connected by smaller passages. Whatever built these tunnels was massive." "How massive?" Marcus asked, though he was already beginning to suspect the answer. "Based on the dimensions, we estimate the creatures were at least 30 meters long," Sarah said. "And the energy signatures suggest they're still alive down there." Marcus felt his old combat instincts kicking in. "Alive? You didn't mention that in your briefing." "We weren't certain until we arrived," Sarah admitted. "The readings are faint, but consistent. Slow metabolisms, probably in some form of hibernation. And you want to wake them up." "We want to study them," Torres interjected. "Carefully, with proper precautions." Marcus looked at the display again, noting the depth of the chambers. "What makes you think it's safe to disturb something that's been sleeping under the ice for centuries?" "Because they're dying," Elena said quietly. "The energy signatures are getting weaker. Whatever's keeping them alive down there, it's failing. We estimate they have maybe a few months before their hibernation systems shut down completely." That evening, Marcus stood alone on the station's observation deck, watching aurora lights dance across the night sky. The green and blue ribbons reminded him of tracer fire, of battles fought in the vacuum of space. He touched the scar on his neck where shrapnel had nearly severed his spinal cord during the Centauri Wars. The station's medical officer had cleared him for the mission, but Marcus knew his body was failing in small ways every day. The neural implant helped compensate for brain damage from explosive decompression. The synthetic muscle fibers in his left leg replaced tissue destroyed by plasma fire. The artificial heart valve kept him alive after a piece of debris had punctured his chest. He was a collection of repairs and replacements, held together by military-grade medical technology and stubborn determination. Some nights, he wondered why he kept fighting to stay functional when it would be easier to just let the damage accumulate. Can't sleep either? Sarah appeared beside him, holding 2 cups of synthetic coffee. Marcus accepted the coffee gratefully. Old habit. Wars don't follow normal sleep schedules. Is that why you took this job? Because you can't sleep? Marcus considered the question. I took this job because I'm good at solving problems in dangerous environments. What I can't figure out is why a research expedition needs someone with my particular skill set. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. The initial survey team lost contact 3 weeks ago. We found their equipment scattered on the ice, but no bodies. Something scared them enough that they abandoned their gear and tried to reach the emergency shelter on foot. And you think whatever's in those tunnels is responsible. I think they got too close to something they didn't understand, Sarah said. We need someone who can think tactically, who understands how to assess threats and respond appropriately. Marcus stared out at the ice fields. In the distance, he could see the entrance to the research site, marked by portable floodlights that created a small island of illumination in the darkness. What aren't you telling me about those energy readings? The patterns are familiar, Sarah admitted. They match certain theoretical models for biological stasis systems. But the power requirements would be enormous, beyond anything we've seen from known alien technology. Unknown alien technology then. The most advanced unknown alien technology we've ever encountered, Sarah confirmed. And, if our calculations are correct, these creatures have been in hibernation for at least 5,000 years. The next morning brought the first expedition into the ice tunnels. Marcus checked his equipment one final time. Thermal suit, emergency beacon, plasma cutter, medical kit, and a military-grade scanner that could detect life signs through 30 meters of solid rock. His cybernetic implant hummed quietly as it synchronized with the suit's systems. The tunnel entrance had been carved by the previous team using industrial plasma torches. The opening descended at a steep angle, disappearing into blue-black ice that seemed to absorb their headlights. Marcus noted the precision of the excavation, the careful reinforcement of the tunnel walls. Whoever had done this work knew what they were doing. Readings are getting stronger, Elena announced as they descended. Her scanner showed energy patterns flowing through the ice like veins of light. Whatever's down there, it's definitely active. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber carved from solid ice. But this wasn't the rough, natural formation Marcus had expected. The walls were smooth, almost polished, covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift and flow in their headlight beams. The ceiling arched overhead, supported by pillars of ice that had been shaped with impossible precision. This is architecture, Marcus breathed. Deliberate design. Look at this, Sarah called from across the chamber. She was standing beside what appeared to be a wall of translucent blue ice. But, as Marcus approached, he realized it wasn't ice at all. It was some kind of crystalline material, and, behind it, something massive was moving. The creature was beautiful in a way that made Marcus's breath catch in his throat. It was easily 40 meters long, with a serpentine body covered in scales that shimmered between blue and silver. Its head was elongated, almost draconic, with closed eyes the size of dinner plates. Massive wings were folded along its body, and Marcus could see delicate membrane patterns that looked like frost on a window. It's magnificent, Elena whispered. But Marcus was studying the creature with a soldier's eye. Even in hibernation, he could see the power in its form. The muscular neck that could strike like a battering ram. The claws that could tear through starship hulls. The teeth visible behind slightly parted lips that could bite a man in half. It's a predator, he said quietly. Look at the chamber walls, Sarah said, directing their attention to the carved patterns surrounding them. These aren't just decorations. They're part of some kind of life support system. Marcus examined the patterns more closely. They were filled with a luminescent substance that pulsed in slow, rhythmic waves. The light seemed to flow toward the crystalline enclosure, feeding energy into whatever was keeping the creature alive. The hibernation system is failing, Elena observed, checking her readings. The energy flow is down to about 30% of optimal levels. At this rate, the creature will die within weeks. Marcus found himself studying the dragon's face. Even in sleep, There was something noble about its features, something that spoke of intelligence, and perhaps even wisdom. This wasn't some mindless beast. This was a being capable of thought, of emotion, of dreams. "We need to get back to the surface," he said finally. "Report what we've found." As they prepared to leave, Marcus took one last look at the sleeping dragon. Something about the creature called to him, though he couldn't explain what. Perhaps it was the way the light played across its scales, or the peaceful expression on its massive face. Or perhaps it was the recognition of another warrior, another survivor of battles long past. Back at the research station, the team gathered in the main conference room to discuss their findings. The holographic display now showed detailed scans of the chamber they discovered, along with readings from the hibernation system. "We've identified at least 12 more chambers," Torres announced, all containing similar creatures in various stages of hibernation. "But the system failures are accelerating." "What caused the failures?" Marcus asked. "Natural degradation over time," Elena explained. "The technology is incredibly advanced, but 5,000 years is a long time for any system to operate without maintenance." "Can we repair it?" "That's where you come in," Sarah said. "Your engineering background, combined with your tactical experience, makes you uniquely qualified to attempt repairs without endangering the creatures." Marcus studied the display, noting the complexity of the energy distribution network. "This isn't just advanced technology. This is beyond advanced. We're talking about bioengineering on a scale we can barely comprehend. Which is why we need to save them," Torres said. "The technological applications alone could revolutionize human medicine, engineering, even space travel. And if we wake something that doesn't want to be disturbed?" "These creatures have been dormant for 5 millennia, Sarah pointed out. "If they were aggressive, they would have emerged long ago." Marcus wasn't convinced, but he found himself thinking about the dragon's peaceful expression, the nobility in its sleeping face. Whatever these creatures were, they deserved better than dying alone in the dark. "I'll help," he said finally. "But we do this my way. Careful, methodical, with full contingency plans if something goes wrong." That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He found himself back on the observation deck, staring out at the ice fields. His cybernetic implant was acting up again, sending small jolts of pain through his skull. The synthetic muscle fibers in his leg were cramping, responding poorly to the cold despite his thermal suit. He was dying by degrees, his body slowly breaking down despite the best medical technology the military could provide. Each day brought new pains, new malfunctions, new reminders that he was more machine than man in some ways. But down in the ice, ancient creatures were dying too. Magnificent beings that had survived whatever catastrophe had frozen their world, only to face extinction from the slow failure of their life support systems. Marcus made a decision that would change everything. He was going back down into the tunnels, not as part of an official expedition, but as one warrior paying respect to another. He owed them that much. The journey back to the dragon chamber took him 2 hours through the ice tunnels. His headlight cut through the darkness, revealing the beautiful carved walls and the pulsing energy patterns that were growing dimmer by the day. When he reached the main chamber, he found the dragon exactly as they had left it. But something was different. As Marcus approached the crystalline enclosure, the creature's eyes slowly opened. They were the most beautiful eyes he had ever seen. Deep blue, flecked with silver, ancient beyond measure but still bright with intelligence. The dragon looked at him through the transparent barrier, and Marcus felt a connection form between them that he couldn't explain. The creature wasn't threatening. If anything, it seemed curious about this small human who had ventured into its domain. Marcus placed his hand against the crystalline wall, and, to his amazement, the dragon moved its massive head closer, until they were separated by only inches of transparent material. That's when Marcus noticed something remarkable. His cybernetic implant had stopped hurting. The cramping in his leg had disappeared. For the first time in years, he felt completely pain-free. "Hello, old warrior," he whispered to the dragon. "I know what it's like to be broken. I know what it's like to fight just to keep functioning." The dragon's eyes seemed to acknowledge his words, though Marcus knew that was impossible. But, as he stood there in the dim blue light, watching this magnificent creature struggle to survive, he made a promise. "I'm going to fix this," he said. "I'm going to find a way to save you." The dragon's eyes slowly closed, but Marcus could swear he saw something like gratitude in that ancient gaze. As he made his way back to the surface, he was already formulating plans. The hibernation system could be repaired, but it would require risks that the research team wouldn't approve. It would require the skills of a soldier who had nothing left to lose. Marcus spent the next 3 days studying the hibernation system schematics with an intensity that surprised the research team. His military engineering background proved invaluable as he traced energy flows, identified critical failure points, and developed repair strategies that others had missed. The power distribution network is based on principles we don't fully understand, he explained during a briefing session. But the basic concepts are familiar. It's like a vast biological circuit board, with the carved patterns acting as conduits for some form of bioelectric energy. Can it be repaired? Dr. Voss asked. Not with conventional methods, Marcus admitted. The system is too integrated, too dependent on materials we can't replicate. But there might be another way. He highlighted specific sections of the tunnel network on the holographic display. These auxiliary chambers contain backup systems. They're offline now, probably shut down to conserve power when the main system started failing. If we can reactivate them, we might be able to restore full power to the hibernation chambers. Commander Torres leaned forward. What would reactivation require? Direct interface with the control systems, Marcus said. Someone would need to access the central control chamber and manually restart the backup networks. Someone? Elena asked. Marcus touched his cybernetic implant unconsciously. The control systems appear to be bioneural interfaces. They require direct neural connection to operate. My implant might be compatible. The room fell silent. Sarah was the first to speak. Marcus, we don't know what a neural interface with alien technology might do to your brain. My brain is already damaged, Marcus replied matter-of-factly. The implant is the only reason I'm functional at all. If the interface is too much for my nervous system to handle, the implant will shut down to prevent further damage. And if the shutdown fails? Torres asked. Then, I die trying to save creatures that deserve better than extinction. That evening, Marcus found himself back in the dragon chamber. The creature's eyes opened as he approached, and again he felt that strange sense of connection. The pain in his body seemed to fade whenever he was near the sleeping giant. I think I know why the survey team ran, he said to the dragon. They felt it too, didn't they? This connection. It scared them. The dragon's breathing was barely perceptible, each breath taking nearly a minute to complete. Its hibernation was so deep that it was almost indistinguishable from death. Marcus placed both hands against the crystalline barrier. I've been broken for a long time. Been putting myself back together piece by piece, replacement by replacement. Sometimes I wonder if there's anything left of the original me. The dragon's eyes focused on him with unmistakable intelligence. You're fixing me, aren't you? Marcus whispered. Just being near you. It's healing something inside me that I didn't even know was damaged. As if responding to his words, the energy patterns in the chamber walls pulsed brighter for a moment. Marcus felt a warmth spread through his body, and, for the first time in years, his cybernetic implant operated without causing him pain. We're going to save each other, he decided. The next morning brought unexpected complications. The research team discovered that the hibernation failures were accelerating faster than predicted. Several of the dragons in the outer chambers were showing critical life signs. We have maybe 72 hours before we start losing them, Elena announced during the emergency briefing. That's not enough time to properly test the interface procedure, Sarah protested. Then, we don't test it, Marcus said. We implement it. Marcus, this is insane. You could die. I could die anyway, he replied. My medical files show progressive neural degradation. The military doctors gave me 2 years before complete cognitive breakdown. That was 18 months ago. Commander Torres studied him carefully. You never mentioned a terminal diagnosis. Because it's not relevant to the mission, Marcus said. What's relevant is that I have the skills and equipment necessary to save these creatures, and I'm running out of time to use them. The central control chamber was located 2 kilometers deeper in the tunnel system, accessible through passages that required technical climbing equipment to navigate safely. Marcus descended alone, despite the team's protests, carrying only essential gear and emergency medical supplies. The control chamber was unlike anything they had discovered previously. The walls were covered in what appeared to be living circuits, organic patterns that pulsed with bioluminescent energy. At the center of the chamber stood a pillar of the same crystalline material used for the hibernation enclosures. Marcus approached the pillar cautiously. His scanner detected massive energy flows converging on this location from throughout the tunnel network. This was definitely the heart of the hibernation system. As he got closer, he noticed something remarkable. The surface of the pillar wasn't solid. It was composed of millions of tiny neural fibers, each one pulsing with its own rhythm. The entire structure was essentially a giant brain, designed to control and monitor the life support systems for hundreds of sleeping dragons. Marcus placed his hand on the pillar's surface. The neural fibers immediately responded, reaching out to make contact with his skin. He felt a slight tingling sensation as they probed his nervous system, apparently analyzing his biological compatibility. Then, the real shock came. The fibers found his cybernetic implant and began interfacing directly with it. The sensation was indescribable. Marcus felt his consciousness expand beyond his physical body, suddenly aware of the entire tunnel network as if it were part of his own nervous system. He could sense each sleeping dragon, feel their slow heartbeats, monitor their life signs with impossible precision. And he could feel their dreams. The dragons weren't just hibernating. They were sharing a collective unconscious experience, a vast dream space where their spirits communed while their bodies slept. Marcus found himself drawn into this mental realm, his consciousness touching minds that were ancient beyond human comprehension. Images flooded his awareness. The dragon's homeworld as it had been before the catastrophe, a beautiful planet of crystal cities and soaring spires, where these magnificent beings had lived in harmony with nature and technology. He saw their desperate flight from a dying star, their arrival at Glacialis when it was still a warm world. He witnessed the gradual cooling as their new sun aged prematurely, forcing them into hibernation to survive. But, most powerfully, he felt their emotions. Their grief for their lost civilization, their hope for eventual awakening, their love for each other, bonds that transcended individual consciousness and created a collective soul that was greater than the sum of its parts. And they felt him too. These ancient minds recognized the pain he carried, the wounds that had never properly healed. They sensed his dedication to duty, his willingness to sacrifice himself for others, his fundamental goodness despite all the damage war had inflicted on him. With a gentleness that brought tears to his eyes, the dragons began to heal him. Not just his physical ailments, but the deeper wounds in his spirit. They took away the guilt he carried from soldiers who had died under his command. They eased the nightmares that had plagued him for years. They filled the empty spaces in his soul with their own strength and wisdom. In return, Marcus gave them what they needed most: hope. His determination to save them resonated through the collective consciousness, inspiring them to fight for survival with renewed vigor. His tactical knowledge helped them optimize their hibernation systems, extending their operational lifespan by decades. Working together through the neural interface, Marcus and the dragons identified the critical failure points in their technology. The repairs required precise timing and coordination across the entire network, something that would have been impossible for the research team to accomplish with their limited understanding of the systems. But, with Marcus serving as a bridge between human and dragon consciousness, they could execute the repairs with perfect synchronization. Marcus lost track of time as he worked through the neural link. His body remained motionless in the control chamber while his mind raced through circuit pathways and energy conduits, diagnosing problems and implementing solutions with superhuman speed and accuracy. The hibernation systems came back online one by one. Power levels stabilized, then began climbing toward optimal parameters. Throughout the tunnel network, sleeping dragons stirred slightly as their life support systems resumed full operation. When Marcus finally disconnected from the neural pillar, he collapsed to the chamber floor, his body trembling from exhaustion. But he felt better than he had in years. The constant pain from his cybernetic implant was gone. The weakness in his left leg had disappeared. Even his vision seemed sharper, clearer. The dragons had healed him on a cellular level, repairing damage that human medical technology couldn't touch. They had given him back his health, his vitality, perhaps even extending his lifespan significantly. As he made his way back to the surface, Marcus realized that the experience had changed him in ways that went beyond physical healing. He felt connected to something larger than himself, part of a community that transcended species boundaries. The isolation that had haunted him since leaving military service was gone, replaced by a sense of belonging he had never experienced before. The research team was waiting anxiously when he emerged from the tunnels. Sarah rushed to his side, scanning him with medical equipment to assess his condition. "Marcus, you've been down there for 18 hours, she said. "We were about to send a rescue team." "The repairs are complete," he reported. "All hibernation systems are operating at full capacity." "How do you feel?" Elena asked. Marcus considered the question. "Better than I have in years. The neural interface wasn't just compatible with my implant. It enhanced it, optimized it. I think the dragon's technology actually improved my cybernetic systems. Commander Torres was studying her scanner readings. The energy signatures from the hibernation chambers have tripled. Whatever you did down there, it worked. That night, Marcus stood once again on the observation deck, but this time he wasn't alone. Dr. Voss joined him, carrying 2 cups of coffee and an expression of deep curiosity. The medical scans show some remarkable changes in your physiology, she said. Your neural activity has increased by 40%. Your muscle tone is better than some 20-year-olds. It's like you've been completely rebuilt from the inside out. The dragons have healing abilities we don't understand, Marcus confirmed. But it's not just physical healing. They're telepathic, empathic. They can sense and repair psychological trauma as well. Is that why you risked your life to save them? Because you knew they could heal you? Marcus shook his head. I risked my life because they deserved to be saved. The healing was unexpected, a gift I didn't know I was receiving. What happens now? Sarah asked. Marcus looked out at the ice fields, knowing that beneath them, 12 magnificent dragons were sleeping peacefully once again, their dreams filled with hope for the future. Now we protect them, he said. We make sure their hibernation systems continue operating until they're ready to wake up. And we learn from them, not as specimens to be studied, but as teachers who have wisdom to share. The military will want to weaponize their technology. Then, the military will be disappointed, Marcus said firmly. These creatures are healers, not weapons. Their technology is designed to preserve life, not destroy it. How can you be so certain? Marcus touched his cybernetic implant, which was now operating with perfect efficiency thanks to the dragon's intervention. Because I felt their souls, Sarah. I shared their dreams. These beings are incapable of hatred or violence. They're pure healers, dedicated to preserving life in all its forms. Even human life? Especially human life, Marcus confirmed. They see potential in our species that we don't see in ourselves. They believe we can become something better than we are. As they stood there in the aurora-lit darkness, both humans felt a strange sense of peace settling over them. The dragons were safe, their hibernation systems restored to full operation. And somewhere in the depths below, ancient minds dreamed of a future where humans and dragons might work together to heal a damaged galaxy. But Marcus knew this was only the beginning. The dragons had chosen him as their guardian, their bridge to the human world. And he would spend whatever time remained to him ensuring that when these magnificent beings finally awakened, they would find a universe worthy of their wisdom and compassion. The real work was just beginning. 6 months after the successful restoration of the hibernation systems, Glacialis Research Station had transformed into something resembling a small city. Word of the discovery had spread through scientific and military channels, bringing researchers, diplomats, and, unfortunately, corporate interests from across human space. Marcus stood in the expanded command center, watching displays that showed activity throughout the Dragon tunnels. His role had evolved from military engineer to something unprecedented, humanity's first xenobiological liaison. The dragons had chosen him as their representative, their voice in human affairs. The changes in his body had continued to develop over the months. His reflexes were faster than any humans had a right to be. His mind could process information with computer-like speed and accuracy. Most remarkably, he could sense the dragon's emotional states even from the surface, maintaining a constant empathic link with the sleeping giants below. The corporate council is demanding access to the hibernation technology, Commander Torres informed him during the morning briefing. They're claiming rights under the Alien Technology Acquisition Act. They can claim whatever they want, Marcus replied. The dragons haven't consented to any technological transfer. Until they do, the hibernation chambers are off limits. Dr. Voss looked up from her research displays. The dragon's neural activity has been increasing over the past week. Are they showing signs of waking up? Marcus closed his eyes, extending his consciousness down through the ice to touch the collective dragon mind. What he found there made his breath catch. They're not waking up, he said slowly. They're preparing for something else entirely. That evening, Marcus descended into the tunnels alone, as had become his habit. The dragons seemed to rest easier when he was nearby, and the empathic connection was strongest during the quiet hours when the surface activity had ceased. He found his usual spot in the main hibernation chamber, sitting cross-legged on the ice floor beside the largest dragon's enclosure. The ancient creature's eyes opened as he approached, acknowledging his presence with that deep intelligence that never failed to humble him. What are you planning? Marcus asked quietly. I can feel your thoughts stirring, but I can't read your intentions clearly. The dragon's response came not as words, but as images and emotions transmitted directly into Marcus's consciousness. He saw human ships arriving at Glacialis, military vessels, and corporate transports. He felt the dragon's concern about humanity's intentions, their worry that their technology would be misused. But beneath the concern was something else, determination. The dragons had made a decision, and they were preparing to act on it. You're going to wake up, Marcus realized. Not just one of you. All of you. The confirmation came as a wave of gentle affirmation. But with it came something that made Marcus's heart race. They intended for him to wake up with them, to undergo a transformation that would make him something more than human. I don't understand, Marcus said. What kind of transformation? The images that flooded his mind were staggering. He saw himself as the dragons intended him to become, enhanced beyond anything human science had achieved, capable of surviving in space without protection, able to live for centuries, if not millennia. They wanted to make him a bridge between species, a permanent liaison who could facilitate understanding between humans and dragons for generations to come. The process would be irreversible. He would gain abilities that would make him appear superhuman to his own species, but he would also become something that was no longer entirely human. The choice was his to make, but the dragons made it clear that their awakening depended on his decision. Marcus spent the night in meditation, his consciousness partially merged with the dragon collective while his body remained in the ice chamber. Through their ancient memories, he experienced the rise and fall of civilizations, the birth and death of stars, the slow evolution of wisdom across cosmic time. The dragons had lived through the collapse of their own civilization, had watched their sun die and their world freeze. But they had learned from their mistakes, developed technologies and philosophies that could prevent such tragedies from occurring. They wanted to share this knowledge with humanity, but they needed an intermediary they could trust completely. When morning came, Marcus had made his decision. He emerged from the tunnels to find the research station in chaos. 3 military cruisers had arrived during the night, along with a fleet of corporate vessels. The corporate council had apparently decided to take the hibernation technology by force, claiming emergency provisions under the Alien Technology Act. They're demanding immediate access to the Dragon Chambers, Sarah told him as he entered the command center. Admiral Harrison is threatening to declare martial law if we don't comply. Marcus looked at the displays showing armed troops surrounding the tunnel entrances. The dragons had sensed the threat, their collective anxiety rippling through his consciousness like a cold wind. Tell the Admiral I want to speak with him, Marcus said. And clear all personnel from the tunnels. Everyone. Now. Marcus, what are you planning? Commander Torres asked. I'm planning to give humanity exactly what it deserves, Marcus replied. Nothing more, nothing less. Admiral Harrison was a career military officer with the kind of rigid mindset that Marcus remembered from his own service days. He strode into the command center with the confidence of someone who was accustomed to having his orders followed without question. Captain Chun, he said curtly, I'm here to secure alien technology that could be vital to humanity's defense. I need immediate access to the hibernation chambers. The technology isn't ours to give, Marcus replied. It belongs to the dragons, and they haven't consented to sharing it. The dragons are unconscious. They can't give or withhold consent. Actually, Admiral, they're about to become very conscious indeed. As if responding to his words, the station's sensors began detecting massive energy surges from the hibernation chambers. Throughout the tunnel network, systems that had been dormant for millennia were coming online. What's happening down there? Admiral Harrison demanded. The dragons are waking up, Marcus said simply. All of them. And they're not happy about uninvited guests with weapons. The first dragon emerged from the tunnels an hour later. It was the largest of the creatures, the one Marcus had bonded with most strongly. 43 meters from nose to tail, with scales that shimmered between blue and silver in the Arctic sunlight. Its wings, when fully extended, cast shadows that covered half the research station. The human forces responded predictably, raising weapons and shouting orders. But before anyone could fire, the dragon did something that shocked everyone present. It spoke. I am Thyrolex, eldest of the remnant, the dragon said, its voice a harmonic resonance that seemed to speak directly to the listeners' minds. I speak for my people in this matter. Admiral Harrison recovered from his shock quickly. I am Admiral Harrison of the Terran Defense Force. I claim this technology in the name of human security. Thyrolex's great head turned toward the Admiral, ancient eyes studying him with unmistakable intelligence. You claim what is not yours to claim, small warrior. Our technology is not for making war. All technology can be used for defense. Your thoughts betray your true intentions, Thyrolex replied. You seek not defense, but conquest. This we will not permit. More dragons were emerging from the tunnels now, 11 magnificent beings taking to the skies above Glacialis. Their presence was both beautiful and terrifying, grace and power combined in forms that defied easy description. Marcus stepped forward, feeling the moment he had been preparing for finally arrive. Admiral, I formally resign my human citizenship and accept the role of interspecies liaison offered by the Dragon Remnant. You can't do that, Chun. You're still bound by your military oath. My military oath was to protect innocent life, Marcus replied. That's exactly what I'm doing. He walked out of the command center and across the ice to where Thyrolex waited. The dragon lowered its great head until Marcus could place his hand on the warm scales of its snout. Are you certain of this choice, warrior friend? Thyrolex asked privately, the words appearing directly in Marcus's mind. There will be no returning to what you were. I'm certain, Marcus replied. Make me what I need to be. The transformation began immediately. Thyrolex breathed on Marcus, but instead of fire, what emerged was a cloud of luminescent particles that surrounded him like a cocoon of living light. Marcus felt his body changing at the cellular level, every organ and system being rebuilt according to draconic design principles. The pain was extraordinary, but so was the sense of becoming something greater than he had ever imagined. His consciousness expanded beyond human limitations, his physical capabilities enhanced far beyond baseline humanity. When the transformation was complete, he was still recognizably Marcus Chun. But he was also something new, the first human-dragon hybrid, designed to serve as a bridge between species. Behold, Thyrolex announced to the assembled humans, our gift to your species. One who can walk between worlds, who can carry our wisdom to your people and your understanding to ours. Admiral Harrison raised his weapon. Stand down immediately, or we will open fire. That was his mistake. The dragon's response was swift and overwhelming, but not violent. Instead of attacking, they demonstrated their true power, the ability to heal and transform on a massive scale. Energy waves rippled out from the 12 dragons, washing over every human present. The weapons in their hands simply stopped functioning. Their molecular structure altered at the quantum level to make them inert. But, more than that, the humans themselves were changed. Diseases were cured, injuries healed, genetic defects corrected. In the space of moments, every person at Glacialis Station became the healthiest version of themselves they had ever been. This is our gift to humanity, Thyrolex explained as the humans stared in wonder at their transformed bodies. Not weapons, but healing. Not conquest, but wisdom. We offer to teach your species what we have learned across millennia. How to live in harmony with the universe rather than in conflict with it. Admiral Harrison lowered his useless weapon, his expression cycling through confusion, anger, and, finally, something approaching awe. What do you want from us? Time, Marcus answered, his voice now carrying harmonics similar to the dragon's. Time to learn, to grow, to become worthy of the knowledge they're offering. The dragons will share their technology gradually, as humanity demonstrates it can be trusted with power that could reshape the galaxy. And if we refuse? Then, you refuse, Thyrolex said simply. We will not force wisdom upon those who reject it. But, neither will we allow our knowledge to be taken and perverted. Choose carefully, humans. This offer may not come again. In the months that followed, Marcus found himself at the center of the most significant diplomatic negotiations in human history. The dragons were patient but firm in their conditions. Humanity had to demonstrate that it could use advanced technology responsibly before more would be shared. The healing technology came first, delivered through carefully controlled demonstrations that saved thousands of lives, while revealing only the most basic principles. Next came energy systems that could power cities without environmental damage. Agricultural techniques that could feed billions without depleting the soil. Each gift was contingent on humanity's behavior. Wars had to end before military technologies would be considered. Environmental damage had to be reversed before terraforming knowledge would be shared. Social inequalities had to be addressed before economic systems could be revolutionized. Marcus served as the primary liaison, using his enhanced abilities to facilitate understanding between species that had evolved along completely different paths. His transformation had given him not just physical capabilities beyond human limits, but also cognitive enhancements that allowed him to process concepts that normal human minds couldn't grasp. He aged slowly now, his lifespan extended by centuries thanks to draconic biotechnology. He would live long enough to see humanity mature into a species worthy of the dragon's trust, or to witness its failure to meet that challenge. The work was difficult, sometimes heartbreaking. There were humans who saw the dragons only as a threat to be neutralized, and dragons who questioned whether humanity could ever overcome its violent tendencies. Marcus found himself defending both species to each other, arguing for patience and understanding in the face of mutual suspicion. But there were victories too. Human diseases that had plagued the species for millennia were eliminated within a year. Clean energy technology ended the environmental crisis that had been building for centuries. And slowly, gradually, humanity began to change. Wars became less frequent as scarcity was eliminated. Nations began cooperating on projects that benefited the entire species. Art and science flourished as resources were redirected from military applications to creative pursuits. Not everyone was happy with the changes. There were resistance movements that saw the dragons as invaders, terrorist groups that targeted the facilities where human and dragon representatives worked together. Marcus found himself serving as both diplomat and protector, his enhanced abilities making him uniquely qualified to defend the fragile peace being built between the species. But the most rewarding moments came during the quiet times, when he sat with Thyrolex and the other dragons in their chambers beneath the ice, sharing memories and dreams across the empathic link they had forged. In those moments, he understood what humanity was being offered, not just technology, but wisdom. Not just power, but responsibility. Not just survival, but the chance to become something greater than the sum of its parts. The dragons had been broken once, their civilization shattered by forces beyond their control. But they had learned from that tragedy, had spent millennia developing not just the technology to survive, but the wisdom to thrive. They offered humanity the chance to skip the painful lessons they had learned, to avoid the mistakes that had cost them their homeworld. Whether humanity would accept that gift remained to be seen. But Marcus would be there to help them make the right choice, for as long as it took. He had found his purpose at last, not as a soldier fighting endless wars, but as a guardian protecting the possibility of peace. The dragons had saved him by giving him someone to save. And, in saving them, he had become something that neither species could have achieved alone. Proof that understanding between radically different forms of life was not just possible, but transformative. In the end, that was the most human thing of all. The refusal to accept that differences were barriers instead of opportunities. The dragons had recognized that quality in Marcus, had seen past his damaged body and wounded spirit to the fundamental decency that made him worthy of their trust. Now he carried that trust forward, one day at a time, one decision at a time, building bridges between worlds and species until the day when such bridges would no longer be necessary. Until the day when dragons and humans could work together as equals, partners in the long project of making the universe a better place for all life. That day was still far in the future. But, for the first time in his life, Marcus Chun was absolutely certain it would come.